Good morning, YouTube. It is Kelly with BC Tactical, and as you can see, I'm wearing my green today, so say hello to my little friend. I can't do an Irish accent, so that's as good as you get. So, happy St. Patrick's Day, and today we're going to do something pretty wild. We're going to make a traditional Irish feast for St. Patrick's Day. Now, generally, a traditional Irish feast would have been something like pork and potatoes or Irish stew and soda bread. But here in America, the traditional thing is corned beef brisket. Why is that? Well, as immigrants came here to America from Ireland, they were able to get corned beef brisket really cheap, and they substituted cabbage for potatoes. Had lots of potatoes in Ireland, not so much here. So anyway, that's kind of the history of it, but immigrants could get corned beef brisket cheap. So I'll have to do some camera adjusting while we go through here today, but as you can see, I have all of these things here laid out. These are just my ingredients. The first ingredient we're going to start with, we're going to make this in a crock pot. So you can make it other ways, you can look up recipes, whatever, but we're going to do the crock pot method. So I've got my crock pot set up here. As you can see, I've got a liner in my crock pot. It just makes cleanup easier. So the first thing we're going to start with on the corned beef brisket that we're going to make, and this is the easiest thing in the world. So anytime I'm cooking with a crock pot, I start out with my onions. And what I will do is I will layer those onions. I cut them into discs like such, flat discs, a little less than 1/4 inch thick. And I will layer those into the bottom of my crock pot. And that will keep things from sticking in my crock pot. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to add are carrots. So we've got plenty of carrots, and how do I cut those up? I just cut them at kind of a diagonal slice, probably about 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches long. So we're just going to toss those in. Now, what do the onions on the bottom do? They keep the meat or whatever you're cooking from sticking to the hot bottom. So the onions won't stick, but the meat, the beef, the pork, or whatever you're cooking will. All right, so there we have the onions. Now for the main affair. A big, beautiful corned beef brisket. You'll see them in the stores, especially around this time of year. As you can see, I've just got all of my stuff in there. I'm just going to lay this in just like that, right on top of my onions and carrots. So, generally people are going to ask, how many carrots do I need? 3 carrots per person, 2 potatoes per person. And then your corned beef, whatever size you decide to get. On my potatoes, all I have done is I've washed them up real good, and I've cut them in half. Leave the peel on, and we just toss them all in. They'll go right here on top. And then I'm going to give you my recipe secrets for traditional Irish dinner. Traditional. Okay. Now, all of these corned beefs are going to come with one of these little seasoning packets. Throw it away. Don't use it. So, what I will use is Weiler's beef granules. You can get the cheap stuff, but it doesn't taste as good. Weiler's didn't pay me to do this, but anyway, Weiler's beef granules. It tells you so much per cup, so you're supposed to use I think a teaspoon per. It's like a bouillon cube, but this is the powder. I use the powder, and I mix it pretty heavy. You can see how dark that is. So it's much darker than a regular beef broth that you would get in a can or something like that. So I'm just going to mix this nice and heavy in there. Just like that, very simple. And the next thing that I'm going to put into the crock pot is Lipton Beefy Onion. Lipton Recipe Secrets Beefy Onion. What's that going to do? Well, it's going to give it a little extra onion flavor, and it's going to give it just a little bit of extra beef flavor, because what will happen is you cook any meat in a crock pot is you will gain the tenderness, but you will lose some of that savory flavor from the meat. So the beefy onion soup mix is my wife's secret. Now, as you'll see, we've got everything in the crock pot, but we need that liquid, that broth, that water. We need to fill this guy up until it's over the top of all of the food, the potatoes and everything. So what we're going to do is, I've got it set up by my sink here. I want to turn on the hot water. Probably have to speak up now. I'm just going to fill that guy until just above the top. Okay, so kind of adjust my potatoes around in there, and so you can see it is just right at the top level of those potatoes. Okay, that's it. Now I'm going to cook this for about 8 hours on low. 8 hours on low, and then after I get through cooking it 8 hours on low, it'll be ready. The last 15 minutes that you cook this guy, you want to add some cabbage. If you like cabbage. If you don't like cabbage, don't add the cabbage. So anyway, so if you want the cabbage, you add it in the last 15 minutes, or it'll be too soggy. And if you don't give it 15 minutes, it won't be soft enough. So I don't like mine completely mushy. So just add it in 15 minutes, cook it on low, let it steam right on top, and you'll be good to go. So there you go. St. Patrick's Day, traditional Irish fare. I hope you guys all have a happy St. Patty's Day, and we will see you soon.